Good morning, everyone. My name is Tim Robbins. I'm a mindset coach and a communication skills trainer, and I'm here today to present to you the final webinar in this series put on by SAP Concur. I'd like to start by giving my sincere apologies to you. I am sitting in a lovely little cottage in the remote countryside of the northern part of the Czech Republic, and the electricity went off 10 minutes before we were due to start today. It's now quarter to the hour. We're supposed to start at 2:30. It's now 1:45. Of course, the electricity has come back on. Hey ho, in previous trainings we've talked about the circle of influence, the circle of concern. Circle of concern being everything that we cannot control. The electricity is one of them. So, unfortunately, I'm having to record this video after the event. I really wanted to deliver it to you live, especially as it's the last one in the series. But hey ho. Anyway, here we are, and the focus of today is taking your team to the next level of performance. So let's get into this. Topics for today are, number one, creating a psychologically safe environment for your team. Number two, the power of sharing vulnerability, both from yourself and encouraging your team to do so. And number three, establishing purpose through common goals. So, first things first, does culture make a difference? You know, we hear a lot of talk, a lot of books, articles, blogs, vlogs. What's your company culture? What are you doing to increase the culture, support the culture, change the culture, make the culture more enjoyable? Does it really matter? And when it comes to the cold numbers as an FD or as a head of finance or as a CFO, ultimately you are concerned with the numbers. Like, great, we have these wonderful events and we're spending all this money that I can see costs around culture. Is it worth it? Does it actually make a difference to the bottom line? Well, it's a very valid question to ask. Harvard Business School study, 1992, created by these two professors, Professor James Heskett and Professor John Kotter. They did an 11-year study of over 200 companies, and they were analysing company culture, specifically looking at the impact on long-term economic performance. And what they were noticing, or what they were observing or analysing in the cultures that were, let's say, had a positive focus on culture. Specifically, they were looking at cultures that empowered leadership at all levels. So whether you were the most junior analyst in the team, or the most junior recruit, or the most junior member, or a mid-level manager, or a senior manager, or a director, or a senior leader, everyone is being empowered to take some ownership and leadership in terms of how they do what they do. Here are the results. So, average increase for 12 firms with performance-enhancing cultures compared to average increase for 20 firms without performance-enhancing cultures. Revenue growth, 682% compared to 166. Employment growth, 282% compared to just 36%. Stock price growth, 901% compared to 74%. Net income growth, 756%. compared to an average of 1% of the firms which didn't embrace, didn't value, didn't prioritize a performance-enhancing culture. A really significant long-term piece of analysis done into the impact of cultures on ultimately on the bottom line. So the three topics that we're going to explore today all come from the work of Daniel Coyle. Daniel Coyle is a well-known researcher. He wrote a book called The Talent Code, which is sort of decoding talent and what that is. This book is called The Culture Code. And in his journeys, he has spent a significant amount of time with all of these groups and more. The Navy SEALs, Pixar, Google, Disney, professional sports teams, a basketball team and a baseball team, and a top-performing inner-city school that was consistently scoring incredible results in an area which is absolutely economically deprived, and all of the surrounding schools were having way below average results. So he was very curious, thinking, well, look, these are all teams of people, they're all groups of people. What makes them different? Why are the Navy SEALs different from just the Army? Why is Pixar consistently winning so many Oscars and awards when other animation companies, they do okay, they might have a hit here and there, but it might just be a one-hit wonder. How can you consistently produce hit after hit after hit, like Google, like Disney? So he spent months with each of these teams and started to code and code their language and their patterns and their values and their habits. And from this, he surmised that there are three pillars of high-performing teams that stretch across all of these different teams that he worked with. The first pillar is that all of these teams were building a psychologically safe environment. So they were building an environment in which everyone felt psychologically safe. Secondly, all of these teams share vulnerability, and not just now and again, they've actually, to use his term, operationalized vulnerability. It's a part of how they do business. It's how they communicate. It's how they run their meetings. It's what they do in their chats over coffee. Operationalized vulnerability, which means being human. And thirdly, no surprise, but all of these teams have established a very clear purpose through goals, through mantra, through habits, through the language that they use. It's very, very clear what their purpose is, what they're here to do, what they're not here to do, how they're going to do it, when they're going to do it, to what standard. Let's go through each of these. So, building a psychologically safe environment. People in high-performing teams feel psychologically safe, protected and at ease to be their authentic selves. Here is a really powerful set of questions I would invite you to ask your team. And ironically, they need to feel psychologically safe to give you honest answers. Let's think about these. Induction into the team, project work reviews, giving, receiving feedback, performance reviews, meetings, giving a presentation, day-to-day interactions. These are all examples of normal things that happen in most teams, which can be done in a way that makes you feel safe and supported and protected and welcome, or, and unfortunately more commonly, they can be done in a way that makes you feel psychologically unsafe, threatened, criticized, anxious, frustrated, left out, under scrutiny, to use that horrible phrase, thrown under the bus. So I'd invite you just to take a moment to think about this for yourself. What behaviours, office behaviours, behaviours from your colleagues, from your senior leadership, or the people you report into, what behaviours make you feel unsafe, threatened, anxious, worried? Give that some thought. What was the last thing that your manager, your boss, your senior leader, your board, for example, did or said to you that made you feel really worried, threatened, anxious, unsafe? Was it something along the lines of 5 minutes before the big meeting, Tim, could you just give us a little presentation about the project you're working on and give us some analysis on where you think it's going? I wasn't expecting this. I didn't know that you were expecting. We'd like you to do that. Make sure, just keep it on point. Wow. So something like that can make you feel very psychologically unsafe. I had an example recently where I was working with a company and some of the team members said, when a senior manager walks over to our table and just says, Tim, could I have a quick word in private? And Tim stands up and walks away with his senior leader. The rest of the table feel really worried, like, oh my God, what was that? Are they in trouble? Are they upset? Have I done something? Am I in trouble? Am I next? What's going on? Now, they shared that in the training, and the senior leaders were horrified. They were like, oh my God. And two of them said, I do that all the time. It never occurred to them that this would be something that could make people feel unsafe. They were just thinking, I just want to have a private chat. I just want to discuss something that doesn't concern them. I want to discuss something that I didn't want to annoy them or distract them with having a conversation next to them. So that's a great example where there was no malice intended. However, the impact can be significant on other people. I'd get you to ask this question to your teams and get them to answer. Likewise, What are the behaviors that make you feel safe, supported, welcomed, protected? For example, everyone being acknowledged in meetings, everyone having their opportunity and actually encouraged to share and give their opinion. Making sure that you stamp out snarky remarks or sarcasm or cutting comments or offensive humor or derogatory humor, things that, oh no, I just meant it in a way, but actually no, we don't do that here. We don't do that. And for example, when someone gives an idea, we recognize the value in that idea. We don't allow people to come in and instantly start tearing it to pieces. Just having my birthday remembered, the fact that my manager and my team knows my birthday and they might even get me a little card or sing me happy birthday. Might feel a bit awkward, but the fact that they know it and that it shows that I'm important, it makes me feel safe. So think about what makes you feel safe and protected, and ask that to your team. And really find out from your team, what is it that you could do more of or less of that could make them feel more safe and less unsafe. Okay, let's go into the next section here. So, sharing vulnerability. What are we talking about here? Okay, so habits of mutual risk drive trust and cooperation. That's the mindset. Habits of mutual risk. Let me take a risk. Vulnerability isn't touchy-feely nonsense. It's admitting you have weaknesses and that you could use help. Vulnerability isn't the result of trust. It precedes it. So in one of his lectures, Daniel Coyle mentions that we get it actually completely backwards. We think, well, look, once I trust you, then I can open up and be vulnerable and actually tell you, I don't have it all worked out and I do feel a bit anxious and I do give myself a hard time. Sometimes I feel like an imposter and I don't really actually understand this as well as people think I do. But I wouldn't do that until I trust you. That's completely backwards. Turn it around. When I'm vulnerable, when I actually reveal my humanness, my worries, insecurities, frailties, frustrations, when I do that, that builds trust. Well, hang on, Tim. I'm a senior leader. I don't think that applies to me. I believe that you should never let them see you sweat. Right? That's what we've been told since the 80s. Never let them see you sweat. Just keep your chin up and just always look like you've got the answers, and never show weakness. Never show weakness. If you show weakness, people won't trust you. Completely backwards. Never show weakness, people won't believe you. Because never having weakness isn't human. It's not real, okay? And we see examples in politics in particular where some individuals literally act like they know it all. And they never have any doubts, and they're never wrong, and they have all the answers, and they're absolutely infallible. Does that warm us to those people? Absolutely not. It's like that person is delusional. They have no idea. Really? They think that we can't see through that? That's just nonsense. It's not human. So turn that around. Be more vulnerable. Own your mistakes. Own your weakness. Ask for help. Make it very clear. This topic here is not my area of expertise. In fact, Jane, Claire, Mohammed, they know way more about this than I do, especially Mohammed, because he's got that whole background in that part of his work. So actually, Mohammed, could you lead this part of the meeting? Because this is really your area, not mine. That's being vulnerable. It's the exact opposite of acting like you are the superstar. So here's an example he talks about in his book, the AAR, the After Action Reports. So the US Navy SEALs, the elite of the elite in American military, they have an AAR after every mission. And he said it's a tough meeting. It's not a fun meeting, it's a tough meeting. It goes into this. Good AARs follow a template. You have to do it right away, Cooper says. You put down your gun, circle up and start talking. Usually you take the mission from beginning to end. Chronologically, you talk about every decision and you talk about the process. You have to resist the temptation to wrap it all up in a bow and try to dig for the truth of what happened so people can really learn from it. You have to ask why, and then when they respond, you ask another why. Why did you shoot at that particular point? What did you see? How did you know? What other options were there? You ask and ask and ask. The goal of an AAR is not to excavate truth for truth's sake or to assign credit and blame, but rather to build a shared mental model that can be applied to future missions. Look, nobody can see it all or know it all, Cooper says. Cooper is the senior Navy SEAL he's been spending time with. But if you keep getting together and digging out what happened, then after a while everybody can see what's really happening, not just their small piece of it. People can share experiences and mistakes. They can see how what they do affects others, and we can start to create a group mind where everybody can work together and perform to the team's potential. So these are tough, challenging, sometimes confrontational meetings, right? It's not like, oh yeah, you did great and you're wonderful. Yeah, and you too. Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, you were the best. Oh, stop it. No, you were wonderful. But you didn't do anything wrong. It's not that. It's like, okay, so just tell me, why did you do this? Okay, but you did that instead of this. Tell me why. Help me understand what you were thinking there, because I didn't get that part. I would have done it this way. Why was that? Okay. Ah, right. So you knew that before, right? Okay, I didn't know you knew that. Okay, that makes sense. Right, so what could we do then next time? What if that happens next time? What would we do there? It's having that type of conversation, but that requires trust, because it can easily, to a let's say a group of individuals who have been thrown together rather than a closely knit team, that would sound too much like I'm getting publicly humiliated, challenged, criticized. So that's the difference. One of the key differences, high-performing teams know that when they have these debrief sessions, it's not personal. I mean, it's personal in the sense that you are the person that did the thing or said the thing, but it's not personal. We're not trying to go after you. This is about understanding what we do better and better and better so we can be better and better as a team. So what was the last thing at work that you messed up or got wrong? You, not your team. What's the last thing you messed up and got wrong? Think about that. Find something that recently that you tried to do well and you just didn't do it well. It just didn't work out as you'd planned. And I want you to share this with your team in the next meeting. Guys, I've just been thinking about this, something that I messed up recently, and it was this. I thought I was going to do it right, and I got it completely wrong. Share that with your team, because that's you being vulnerable. And you can also share what you've learned from this experience. So actually what I realize now is if I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to have to do this many times, if I do it like that, it's not going to work. And if I skip this part, which I thought I could, actually that's going to make it absolutely, it just can't work that way. That's my learning. Now, what's the value of this? When you as the leader are sharing vulnerability, you suddenly give permission to everyone else to be vulnerable. It's okay to own mistakes. It's okay to say you're not perfect. It's okay to ask for help. Now, even take this a step further. I invite you to start recognizing, congratulating, complimenting, thanking people for doing those behaviors. When they own mistake, thank them. When they have asked for help from another person in the team, congratulate that person. I want to congratulate Sandra because she didn't know how this particular report worked, and she found out the right person and she approached them, and who is Jenny, and she's spent an hour with Jenny going through exactly what it is and how it works and how she can then incorporate that. Nicely done, Sandra, great job. Right? Congratulate those behaviors, because that's the cement of a high-performing team. They learn from each other, they approach each other, they ask for help, they rely on each other. And it's not like it's okay to do that. That is celebrated, because that's what accelerates learning. That's what accelerates performance. You look at any low-trust team, everyone's afraid to show weakness. No one's going to ask for help, because I could get sacked. I'm sort of announcing that I don't know something. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put my hand up. You put your hand up. I'm not going to do that. That's a horrible environment to work in. So make sure your team is encouraged and rewarded for showing vulnerability, for calling out for help when they need it. And the only way they're going to do that is if they see you doing that. You can't tell them to be vulnerable, but you're not being vulnerable. That doesn't work. It's called a vulnerability loop, and it only works if everyone is involved. Establishing purpose. So this is the third pillar. Now let's think about purpose. What's our purpose? Well, it's answering these questions. What is our purpose as a team? Why does our team exist? What are we here to actually do? Doing what we do, what difference does that make? what's most important to us? What are our priorities? Now, as a senior leader in the team, you're probably pretty clear about this, right? Because these are the conversations you're having at that senior level with your seniors and your peers. And it's natural to just assume that everyone else knows it, right? Because you see it, you get it, and you've probably mentioned it once or twice here and there. So obviously everyone gets it. And this is called leadership bias. And it's really, really dangerous because, well, let's have a look at this for example. So this is Inc. magazine, a well-known business magazine, naming our top 3 priorities. So they asked executives at 600 companies this question. What percentage of your employees can name your company's top 3 priorities? So not your department, not your team, not your department, but the company, the whole companies. What percentage of your employees can name your company's top 3 priorities? Collectively, they guessed 64%. Inc. magazine then actually polled and asked the employees for each of those 600 companies. 2%. 2% of the people polled were able to correctly identify the top 3 priorities of their company. Wow. Okay, so this is what we're talking about here. It's just because you know as the leader, do not assume. In fact, actually assume that people have no idea. Assume that even your tenured senior managers have no idea. They just don't know, right? And the managers don't know, and the people in the teams, they just don't know. So it's your role, and it's the team's role to constantly clarify this. In terms of the companies or the teams that Daniel Coyle spent time with, he called them. He described them as statements of priorities. And in the cultures that he studied, it was painted on walls, it was stamped on emails, it was incanted into mantras and expressions unique to those companies. It was dropped into conversations. It was repeated in meetings and monthly catch-ups, over and over until, as he put it, they became part of the oxygen. Right? So it wasn't just mentioned once at the annual meeting, right? Oh, well, I mentioned at the annual meeting, I'm sure everyone retains that. They don't. They probably weren't even listening. They're probably just thinking about other things and wondering, what time they could get home to be with their family. The truth is that you need to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, and it needs to become a mantra. Who we are, what we're doing, why we're here. What are our goals? What are our goals? But what are our key goals? And what are our key goals? And why are we here? And what are we doing? But who are we? And who are we not? And what's the purpose? Why do we exist? And what are we about? And who are we serving? But who are we actually serving? Make this a mantra. Purpose isn't about tapping into some mystical internal drive, but rather about creating simple beacons that focus attention and engagement on the shared goal. Successful cultures do this by relentlessly seeking ways to tell and retell their story. To do this, they build what we call high-purpose environments. High-purpose environments. So the goal here is to focus and to shift your culture, the way you operate, the way you run meetings, the way you do reviews and monthly catch-ups and monthly assessments and performance reviews and target reviews and conversations about company performance. To restructure these in a way where you are constantly focusing on these beacons, focusing on the key attention, the key attention on key KPIs, key performance indicators, and repeating the shared goal and repeating the vision, and relentlessly retelling the story. So here's an exercise you can do as well, which is about creating a story as a team. This shouldn't come from the leader; it comes from the entire team because everyone's voice is equal and equally valuable. Who are we, guys? What's our story? What's the story of the firm, the company, and what's our story within that story? So when new members join, whether they're brand new or a senior person who's being brought in, let us tell you our story. Let us bring you up to speed with who we are, what we stand for, what we're about. That's a beacon. There's a set of beacons within those stories, what we value and what our identity is. So the mindset here is be 10 times as clear about your priorities as you think you should be, right? Like just be so much clearer. Oh, no, we discussed that, in the quarterly review. Everyone's very clear. I guarantee you, not everyone is clear. I guarantee you they're kind of clear, but no one's going to be 100% clear. So high purpose environments are about sending not so much one big signal as a handful of steady, ultra-clear signals that are aligned with a shared goal. They are less about being inspired than about being consistent. They are found not within big speeches, so much as within everyday moments when people can sense the message. This is why we work. This is what we are aiming for. So that's straight out of the book. Okay, so this is, high purpose environments are about sending not so much one big signal, but a handful of steady, ultra clear signals. So it's not the annual speech that we think, oh, that'll set everyone on a clear course. They won't even remember it a week later. Regular, ongoing clear signals, clear mantras, clear repetitions of stories and goals, and get to the point where literally everyone can repeat it, and you're getting much closer to a high purpose environment. High-purpose environments are filled with small, vivid signals designed to create a link between the present moment and a future ideal. They provide the two simple locators that every navigation process requires. Here is where we are, and here is where we want to get to. So there's some exercises right there with your team. Guys, let's clarify. Where are we? Where are we right now? Where is here right now? Where are we? How do we clarify that in words? Step 1. Step 2. Where are we getting to? Where are we trying to get to? Where do we want to get to? Where do we need to get to by when? How will we know when we've arrived? How will we know? What will we see, hear, sense, notice? What will be in front of us? What will be behind us? So again, ask these questions to your team. What is the purpose of our team? What is our actual purpose? And who are our customers? And how do we know when we've done a great job? How do we know that? What are the measurements? Well, in terms of the quote that Daniel Coyle uses a lot in the book is measure what really matters. So the US Navy SEALs, they have the Navy SEALs HQ in the US. They have a wall with the belongings of all of the US Navy SEALs who've been killed. That's what really matters to them. That's a very powerful, potent reminder of what's really important is that we keep each other alive. And here is the memorabilia of all of the US Navy SEALs who've been killed in action. Pixar, in the HQ of Pixar, they have the first cartoon, illustrations next to the Oscars. So as you can see there, that probably, it doesn't look like Woody, does it, from Toy Story? But that's the first iteration of what Woody looked like. Now you might think, well, God, that obviously that isn't Woody, so we're not going to put that on the wall because that's not the Woody we know. So no, that's the wrong thinking. This is where Woody came from. This is the first illustration of Woody. This is the first iteration. So that is what spawned the idea, which then developed, and they probably had lots of AARs, after action reviews, where they're constantly reviewing and improving the processes. That became the Woody that we then know and love from the Toy Story series. But that's in the HQ of Pixar. That's what really matters to them, is that we create things, and we just put things out there and then we improve them. But we start with creating, and next to it is the Oscar. That's what really matters, is creating world-class films, world-class animations. So what really matters to your business, to your team, to your department? What really matters? And how can you make it more visible to everyone? There's a key exercise for you there. And it's not for you to do as the leader. It's about engaging the team. Hopefully you're getting this message now. Engaging your team to do to do this together. It's not, I'm going to go and do this for my team and present it to them. No, everyone is involved in these activities. So what really matters to your business? What are the end goals, results, achievements? And how can you make them more visible, literally visible in the office, in the working space when we do return to the working space? Here's an additional challenge. How can you make it more visible in the virtual world that we're currently in? How can you start your meetings or end your meetings in a way that visually reminds everyone of what we're doing, what really matters to us, what we're about? So finally, to wrap things up, some other things that Coyle noticed, everyone, in terms of high-performing teams, everyone in the group talks and listens in roughly equal measures. There's no stage hogs, right? Where like the leader does 80% of the talking. And if you are that leader, you have to stop that. You've got to stop being the voice in your meetings. You are not creating a high performance culture. You're creating an autocracy, or autocracy. You're creating an autocracy where what you say goes, right? And that's what you're creating, and that's not a high performing team. Members maintain high levels of eye contact. So again, the key thing with that is that make sure that everyone has got their camera on during virtual meetings. Don't have people hiding in the background. Everyone needs to have their camera on because I need to see your eyes. Everyone needs to see each other's eyes. If you've got people hiding but with no camera, that's not going to create a high performing team. Their conversations and gestures are energetic, so give people coaching and also demonstrate best practice. I'm being energetic with you. You need to be energetic with your people. So none of this, morning guys, welcome, and today we're going to go through the purpose of our team and discuss the values that we share. Oh, right, you've got to change that energy. Bring energy and gestures to what you do and encourage that in your team. Encourage your immediate direct reports to be the same. They can encourage their team members to be the same. High energy, plenty of gestures. Members communicate directly with one another, not just with the team leader. So again, team leaders, managers, encourage them to encourage their people to communicate with each other rather than just coming always up the hierarchy to get answers and guidance. Members bring information back to share with, with the team. So again, encourage your people, your managers, their team members to bring information back to share with the team. Everyone's sharing. It's not all coming top down, bottom up, sideways, all directions. Everyone's bringing information. Everyone's bringing new things they've found, new solutions, new books they've read, new inspiration they've got. I heard this talk. I think I should share it with the team. I went to this virtual webinar seminar and I learned this, and I want to share this with the team. So high performing teams, everyone's sharing equally. It's not a waterfall top down. And in terms of other characteristics, there's high levels of mixing, so constantly interaction with each other, pair work, group work, subgroups. Communication is happening across hierarchies. There's constant affirmations of trust. So I trust you and thank you for trusting me. Plentiful thank yous across the board. Short, energetic exchanges, lots of questioning, intense listening, and what he calls plenty of belonging cues, such as eye contact, lots of body language, and lots of fun ensure that a safe connection in such groups. So again, we've got to get the cameras on in this virtual world. Cameras have to be on, people have to be engaged and visible. Make sure that no particular individuals are hogging the interactions. Everyone is interaction, and also make sure interactions are limited in time, so you can't have someone going on for a 5 or a 10 or a 15-minute rant. It's going to destroy the energy. So you will have accompanied with this video my taking your team to the next level of performance checklist. It's a detailed set of actions that you can do to apply all of this. We've got mindset, building your psychological safety, safe, unsafe exercise, sharing vulnerability, and also establishing and clarifying a common purpose. So take action on all of these. So in summary for today, we've been looking at building a psychologically safe environment, sharing vulnerability, and as a leader, you have to go first, and establishing purpose. So be 10 times clearer in who you are, what you're doing, why you exist, what your key goals are. If you haven't done already, please connect with me on LinkedIn, reach out. Tim Robbins with 1B in Robbins. It would be great to connect with you. If you're interested in doing this type of me doing this type of work with your team, I'd love to talk to you about that. It'd be a pleasure to get to know you better and to also work with your team and help everyone to go through these 3 stages. If you found this webinar useful, in fact, the series of 3 webinars for the senior people that we've been designing these particular webinars for, please share your feedback with SAP Concur, share it with Bridget, and please also drop a comment on LinkedIn, just sharing your experience. If you've had a positive experience, please tag me, please tag Bridget Wells from SAP Concur, please tag SAP Concur. It would be a great I would really appreciate it. I would really appreciate it. If you've got value from this, I've put a lot of work and energy into creating these webinars for you, and I really hope they've been valuable. The one thing I'd ask, if you would leave a comment on LinkedIn, tagging me, tagging Bridget Wells, tagging SAP Conquer, it would be a huge act of generosity and kindness. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you very much. I hope this has been valuable for you. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to connecting with you sometime in the future, hopefully on LinkedIn. Have a great day and enjoy being a great leader for your people.